Hi, I'm Ben, and I'm 16. I study in a small-town high school, and this will be the story of an unusual teacher who once blew in. The thing is, she had a terrible secret, and it changed my life. Well, let me get this straight. It was in this way. Mrs. Schneider taught natural science at our school. She was sort of old bat. My best friend Adam and I barely sat through her lessons. And considering that we didn't really like to study, it was a real hell for us. So we started trolling poor Mrs. Schneider. Adam and I were prodigies at it. As a result, the teacher could not stand it and left the school. We were happy to win, but it wasn't long. During one lesson, the principal came to us and said, "Guys, instead of Mrs. Schneider who left us, we have a new teacher at our school. She will teach you natural science. Everybody meet Miss Murphy." And she came into the classroom. The new teacher was about 30 years old. She was pretty and would have seemed very ordinary, if not for one but. There was something strange about her. Maybe it was the look in her eyes or the way she spoke. We couldn't understand. Anyway, we realized that the easy life was over and Adam and I would have to put up with this tedious science again. So we decided to give Miss Murphy a present on the occasion of the first meeting and put a dead mouse in her bag. After our class, we made our way to the teacher's room while no one was there. Adam took the present out of his pocket and I opened her black bag. But what was it? We jumped back. "Ben, tell me you've seen it too," Adam said. "Yes, I saw it. In the bag of the new teacher lay a real human heart." Both of us were scared out of our wits, but we didn't have time to do anything else because we heard someone's footsteps in the corridor. We quickly hid under the table. Miss Murphy came into the teacher's room, and we recognized her by the shoes. "Do you think they'll like it?" she asked and immediately answered herself. "Yes, that's a good idea. We've been planning this for a long time." Who was she talking to? There was no one else in the room. Adam and I were both frightened and curious at the same time. When the teacher left, we jumped out of the hiding place and ran to the classroom. All of this was very strange. What was wrong with Miss Murphy? What's her problem? We decided to find out more about her. I started to search for the information in social networks, but I didn't discover anything special. She used to live in a neighboring state. She also worked at the similar school there. She had no family. She was fond of drawing and clay modeling, just like everyone else. But we felt that she was hiding something. Then Adam remembered that he had a cousin in this state. He could help us. My friend immediately called him, told him everything we had learned about the new teacher, and asked him to find out more about her. The cousin agreed to help, but said he would need some time. We would have to wait. In the meantime, we decided to observe a strange woman. The next day, we had a natural science class. Miss Murphy came into the classroom with the same bag. Adam and I were wary, but the teacher smiled and said, "Let's have an unusual lesson today. Down with the textbooks. Who wants to do some clay modeling?" Of course, the entire class agreed. The teacher gave everyone a package of polymer clay and said, "Guys, I am fond of modeling, and today we are going to sculpt this." With that, she took a human heart out of her bag. The class gasped, but when we looked closer, we realized that the heart was made of clay. But it was so realistic that it didn't differ from the real one. I immediately wanted to make the same, and my friend too. We were happy to dive in the work. It didn't work out very well the first time, but the teacher showed us the heart structure and helped us sculpt it. Between times, she told us that she liked to make different things out of clay. This helped us to learn more about anatomy. One couldn't argue, it was much more interesting than poring over boring textbooks. But Miss Murphy's oddities still bothered us. A single woman sculpted human organs out of clay? Do you think this was normal? So we decided to follow her. After school, we waited for her to come out of the school, but she still wasn't there. Then Adam offered to go back and find the teacher. We snuck into the empty school. To be honest, it was a little creepy walking through the empty halls knowing that Miss Murphy was somewhere here. And then I saw something, just out of the corner of my eye, but it scared me. We looked into the teacher's room and were flabbergasted. Right in front of us, in the semi-darkness, was a man who had no skin. We broke into a run like a bat out of hell, and we burnt up the road all the way home. We decided not to tell anyone what we saw yet, until we would figure it out for ourselves. The next day, we had a natural science class again. Miss Murphy came wearing a long raincoat. She told us that today we would continue to study anatomy. At these words, she threw off her cloak, and we gasped again. The teacher was wearing a tight suit with a pattern of human organs. Adam and I looked at each other. So that's what we had seen last night? We're just idiots. The teacher climbed onto a table and began to show us the structure of the human body. This was another awesome creative lesson. So it became much more convenient and fun to study anatomy. I shared my thoughts with Adam, but my friend shrugged his shoulders. Cool, of course, but I still don't understand why we need this natural science at all. How will it be useful in life? Miss Murphy heard him and smiled strangely. She said, "One day, Adam, science will save your life. You'll see." What did she mean by that? I was curious. The teacher added that in a week our lesson would be held in the fresh air. We were going camping. It was so exciting. None of the teachers gave us such amusing lessons. At that time, I even felt that I liked learning. A week later, our class went into the Forest National Reserve. During the hike, the teacher told us various interesting things about plants and animals. It was really fascinating. For example, you knew that mammals have red blood, insects have yellow blood, and lobsters have blue blood. Awesome, right? When we had gone far enough and were hungry, someone suggested to make a pit stop. And only then did a huge problem come to light. We forgot all the food at school. Adam screamed, "We're dead! We'll all starve!" My friend wasn't the brightest bulb in the chandelier. I suggested a hunt, but then I remembered that we didn't have any equipment for it. I guess I was not very bright either. Then Miss Murphy said that we could easily make do with mushrooms and berries. But we must remember that half of them were poisonous, and the nearest hospital was several kilometers away. What should we do? We were surprised. Use the knowledge you get at science class, the teacher replied. She showed us what berries to pick, then winked at Adam and asked, "Do you still think that natural science will not be useful in life?" And then we realized that she had arranged all of this for us on purpose, so that we understood that her lessons were very practical. Fab, teacher! We returned from the hike, tired and happy. But as soon as we got to school, Adam's cousin called. "Where have you been? I can't reach you," he said. We told him about going camping with our new teacher. Apparently, the phone didn't pick up a signal there. But the cousin got suddenly scared and said, "Get out of there! Your teacher is insane! I sent you proof by email." We quickly turned on the computer and read what the cousin had found out about Miss Murphy. It turned out that many years ago, she had some kind of trauma and ended up in a psychiatric hospital. She was discharged a year later with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. Of course, she hid it, but when the authorities of the school where she worked found out that the teacher was crazy, she was immediately fired. That's why she had to move to another state. Adam and I looked at each other in surprise. Now everything fell into place. Both the fact that Miss Murphy was talking to herself and her hobbies. But you know what? I didn't care that she had problems with her head, but her lessons were real adventures. I shared my thoughts with Adam, and he said, "I agree, Miss Murphy is cool. Now I want to have schizophrenia too." I told him that idiots didn't have schizophrenia. We laughed and ran home. The next day, as usual, we had a science lesson. The teacher offered us a new experiment, to grow a live chicken from an egg. It was really exciting. But suddenly, the principal came into the classroom. He was very angry and called Miss Murphy to his office. Adam and I were wary. Had he discovered our teacher's secret? And then it hit me. "Adam, I hope you didn't forget to turn off the computer we were reading about Miss Murphy on yesterday," I asked my friend. Adam went bug-eyed and got scared. So it was just as I thought. The idiot left the computer on, and in the morning, everyone had read the truth about our teacher. Of course, she was fired. We ran to the principal and begged for Miss Murphy to be left at the school. Her lessons were so interesting, but the principal refused us. He said that people with mental disabilities couldn't work with children. And you know what? I don't agree with him. It seems to me that all the greatest things in the world were done run by bad men. Writer Ernest Hemingway, President Abraham Lincoln, artist Vincent van Gogh, scientist Alfred Nobel. All of these people had problems with their heads, but that didn't stop them from doing great things. Our teacher, Miss Murphy, was also like that. She showed me that studying can be interesting, and I want to find her, especially since we made her lose her job. Subscribe to the channel if you also think that being different is popping.